revealed. The incredible transformation after my daughter-in-law denied me food on Christmas. Harold stood in the kitchen, his rough hands trembling as he arranged the silverware. The smell of gingerbread wafted in the air, but it felt mind-numbingly hollow. The twinkling lights that adorned the tree seemed to mock him, shining bright while his heart felt entombed in layers of pain. Christmas was supposed to envelop them in warmth, yet here he was on the verge of losing everything he had worked his entire life to build. Memories of laughter and love echoed like ghosts in the room, haunted now by Chloe's dismissive plate empty, stark, and as void as his heart felt at that moment. Over the years, Harold had toiled for the family with unyielding dedication, his hands hardened by steel and time. He had always been the stalwart provider, his labor manifesting into a warm home filled with shared meals and joyous celebrations. Yet now he was confronted by an unsettling reality. Was he still needed? The inheritance that had unexpectedly fallen into their laps changed everything, shifted the ground beneath him. Suddenly he felt like a relic, an artifact from an era of labor that no longer seemed relevant in Chloe's ambitious, new world. He caught a glimpse of Chloe, her eyes glistening with the sharpness of ambition, cutting through the air between them. The weight of her gaze felt like lead. "You don't need this," she had said, placing that empty plate before him, her tone tinged with a mix of disdain and pity. A swell of conflicting emotions shot through him. Shame, desperation, and an annoying flicker of anger. How did it come to this? The pain of rejection churned like a storm within him, yet his family hurried obliviously about, the usual joviality now tainted with a silent tension he didn't know how to voice. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Regretful memories swirled around him as he watched his children and their families bustling, laughter rippling through the room, while he stood like an outsider, one foot in the past, and another teetering on the brink of irrelevance. His wife, the glue of their holiday traditions, was elsewhere, lost in her own thoughts, maybe even the memories they held sacred together. How long had it been since he had felt secure in what he contributed to their family? As tension thickened like fog, Harold's resolve to confront his daughter-in-law began to gnaw at his insides. He yearned to reach out, mend the fraying thread of familial connection, but that feeling was constantly shadowed by a creeping sense of resentment. Were the values he held dear now obsolete? Each time he tried to approach Chloe, waves of uncertainty crashed over him. He could feel the stakes rising, a crucial confrontation looming not just over a plate of food, but over the essence of family itself. Just as he thought he could glimpse a path toward resolution, the soft underbelly of anger pulsed through him, a moment where vulnerability could either be embraced or become a chasm dividing them. Would he have the strength to discover common ground, or was the distance between them insurmountable? The unspoken truth hung thicker than any Christmas feast. Harold's heart raced with the urgency of this decision, a battle between letting go or clinging desperately to the beliefs he had forged over decades. Each moment brought him closer to a confrontation of monumental significance. Would the weight of his experiences build a bridge, or widen the divide? The clock ticked loudly in the background, almost drowning out the laughter from the living room. Harold clenched his fists, his knuckles whitening. He was acutely aware of the specter of doubt that crept in, whispering that perhaps he had become a burden, a shadow in a home where brightness and ambition reigned. With every chuckle he heard, the stabbing realization resurfaced that he was no longer the anchor but rather a drifting sailboat without a captain. Harold took a deep breath, steadying himself, both physically and mentally. He needed to stand firm against the storm brewing within him. What did Chloe see in him? A relic from an outdated industry? Or a man of experience with wisdom forged through trials? He wasn't sure anymore. The air in the kitchen felt thick, dense with unresolved tension. This holiday was supposed to be a celebration, yet it turned out to be a crucible, the heat intensifying, forcing him to confront the essence of his identity. He recalled the years spent scraping together every penny to ensure his family never went hungry, his back bent but never broken. He had built this family, and yet, in Chloe's eyes, he felt diminished. Was it possible to reclaim his dignity? In his mind, Harold envisioned gathering his family around the table, just as they had always done. But this time he wouldn't let himself be dismissed or defined by an empty plate. As the laughter in the other room spiked again, a new spark ignited within him. He wouldn't allow resentment to be the lens through which he viewed his family. He made a decision. He would put his heart on the table, unfiltered, unapologetic. The thought sent a shiver down his spine but also offered empowerment. Stepping toward the living room, he marveled at the decorations, each ornament telling stories of love and struggle. Yet the warmth of these memories felt distant. He needed to forge new connections, and for that he had to be vulnerable. With each step he felt a minute shift in his internal narrative. Perhaps he held more power than he had realized. "Can I borrow everyone for a moment?" Harold's voice cut through the laughter. Silence followed, a suffocating blanket of hesitation before his family turned to him, surprised. He could feel their eyes on him, intense and expectant. They weren't just drinking the eggnog but also the atmosphere he had allowed to fester. "Chloe," he began, locking eyes with his daughter-in-law, "I need to speak with you." His heart pounded as he fought back fear, grounding himself in the reality of his feelings. He had spent too long hiding, too long observing. Now was the time to confront, to reclaim what he felt had been stolen from him. "What is it?" Chloe's tone was firm, almost defensive. Yet behind her bravado, he could sense a flicker of curiosity. Perhaps she was wondering if this interaction would spiral into another family argument. "I want to talk about the way our family interacts, but more importantly, how we can mend these cracks that are damaging our foundation." Her brows furrowed as though trying to decipher whether he was being genuine or just another stubborn elder clinging to relevance. "This is hard for me, and I need you to see that," Harold continued, his conviction growing with each word. "I've always given everything for this family. But things have shifted, and I'm feeling lost. I want to understand how to be part of it again. I want to help, not hinder." The room held its breath. Would his admission resonate, or would it collapse under the weight of defensiveness? Tension swirled around them like the scent of gingerbread baking, a tempting facade covering an inherent conflict. As he stared into Chloe's eyes, he knew the stakes had been raised. This wasn't merely about the past, it was about redefining their family as future. The moment crystallized around him, vivid and urgent. Could his willingness to open up about his feelings forge a new beginning? Would it mend broken connections? Or was it simply pushing against the tide of change that was sweeping through their family? And as he waited for her response, the question burning on the tip of his tongue was whether he could truly find a way back into the family circle he once helped create. Or would the door remain firmly shut, leaving him to wrestle with isolation once more? Chloe's silence hung heavy in the air, a palpable tension that threatened to fracture the moment. Harold's mouth dry. He mentally rehearsed what he hoped would come next. But instead of articulation, confusion flooded his mind. Did he have the words to express the whirlwind of emotions within him? Each heartbeat felt like an echo of doubt and determination. "Dad, Chloe finally began, her voice wavering. "I don't know what to say. I mean, I understand your point, but Chloe, it's not just about understanding. I'm asking for us to really listen to one another." His voice came out stronger than he anticipated, the urgency pushing him to hold her gaze. "I know I haven't always adapted well to the changes. I've watched from the sidelines as this family has grown, and I see how the tides of life have shifted for all of us. It's hard to be a part of it in a way that feels meaningful." The room seemed to shrink around them, the laughter in the background muted as if preparing for the unfolding drama. His heart raced as he sensed the risk of vulnerability might just forge a path forward. Would this jagged metaphorical bridge between them hold? Chloe shifted her weight back and forth, her defensiveness cracking like ice underfoot. "I didn't mean to make you feel invisible." "Then let us discover how to change that," Harold replied, fostering a glimmer of hope that this wasn't merely an admission but perhaps a beginning. He reflected on those years when he felt pride in being the cornerstone of their family, a role he lusted after desperately. But now, he resolved to bridge the expanse between them, to move beyond fear and stigma. "We're all navigating a new normal," Chloe said, her tone gentling. "Maybe it's not just you feeling lost. We all have different expectations of family." Expectations? He couldn't suppress his incredulity. What about the expectations of love and support we built as a family? I've dedicated my life to ensuring that this moment even happens. I've provided a foundation built on my sacrifices. But now it feels like I'm fighting to remain relevant. Each word cracked like thunder in the room. She gazed at him, a mixture of regret and understanding flooding her expression. There's so much going on in our lives that we may not have considered your feelings. We don't communicate well. Then let us start today. Harold felt an unfamiliar swell of courage, and he leaned into the uncomfortable. Let us redefine what our interactions look like. I want to hear your ideas, your dreams. I want to know what you want from me as a father-in-law, as a part of this family. The emotion in Chloe's eyes shifted, a hint of something deeper blooming as she took a step forward. I want us to feel more comfortable addressing these issues, to know that you really do have a place here. Encouraged by her response, Harold felt the corners of his heart soften. Perhaps this was the connection he needed. That collaboration could ultimately help breach the distance he had felt for so long. But beneath that spark of hope, a shadow flickered, an unease lurking in the back of his mind. Was he truly ready to face all the shifts that might come moving forward? He realized the conversation had opened a door, a pathway to understanding, yet the shadows of doubt still whispered. What if his role? How would his family see him in this new dynamic? I want us to be able to talk about hard things, not just opposite sides of the invisible wall, Harold pressed, wanting clarity. But I know I can't do this alone. I get that now, Chloe said softly. Let us make it a priority to rebuild these connections. As they exchanged tentative smiles, a new sense of purpose tugged at Harold's heart. Maybe they could forge an alliance that would strengthen the very foundation he felt was crumbling. But as gratitude swelled in his chest, he couldn't ignore the echoes of unresolved hurt and lingering fears. The real test awaited. Could they navigate the difficult discussions that lay ahead? Would he find in their renewed commitment a sense of belonging, or would the reality prove more complex than anticipated? With one deep breath he understood. The journey had only just begun. The sound of Chloe's footsteps lingered in Harold's mind as she stepped away. The tension left behind felt both heavy and electric. He stood alone in that dimly lit room, mentally sifting through the conversation, piecing together the fragments of what had just transpired. At that moment he recognized that this wasn't just about his relationship with Chloe. It was about redefining himself and his role within a family that seemed to be evolving without him. He took a seat, his thoughts racing. Here he was, a man who had built his life around the pillars of family and duty, now confronting the seismic shifts occurring under his feet. The irony nagged at him. He had prided himself on his stability, yet here he was, preparing to venture into unfamiliar territory. A knock at the door startled him from his contemplation. Can I come in? Chloe's voice carried a soft but firm strength, and he motioned her inside, clearing space on the couch beside him. I've been thinking, she said, settling into the seat with an earnestness that radiated energy, about what you said earlier. I believe we need to actively work on improving our communication, not just words but feelings. Feelings, he echoed, that word reverberating in the air between them. Yes, she continued, a look of determination in her eyes. You mentioned expectations. What if we express what we expect from each other? If we're going to rebuild our connection, we need to name our truths. The challenge bolted through Harold's mind. He had always struggled with vulnerability, but recognized that real growth came from grappling with discomfort. He nodded, steeling himself for both honesty and potential pain. Okay, what do you expect from me? Chloe took a breath, then glanced down. I want to see you actively involved in our lives. Not just as a guardian, but as a person engaged and invested in who we are becoming. I want you present emotionally, not just physically. Her words pierced his heart, revealing intentions that he had overlooked. All these years, he had assumed his mere presence and support sufficed, but now he saw how much he had unintentionally diluted the essence of being a father, a fellow navigator of emotional waters. I can do that, Chloe, he asserted, feeling a rush of resolve. But I need you to understand my fears, too. The fear of being dismissed and overlooked. I'm still learning how to be part of this family in its current form. Chloe's expression softened. We're all learning. Just because our family dynamic is shifting, doesn't mean that the love and support aren't still there. Can we carve out time to openly share how we're feeling? It doesn't have to be formal. It could just be a regular catch-up. A swell of gratitude and anxiety twisted within him. Yes, I do like that. A safe space to voice our feelings without judgment. As they spoke, he felt something shift inside him. The distant echoes of fear began to fade, replaced with a flicker of courage. Perhaps this wasn't merely a chance to fix what felt broken. It was an opportunity to embrace the uncharted territories of vulnerability and mutual growth. But as Chloe stood to leave, Harold sensed another layer to what lay ahead. He hadn't yet confronted the deeper currents of his own expectations, what it meant to be vulnerable, and how it could mold him into a better father, one who truly witnessed his children's lives. Chloe? He called, catching her attention just before she closed the door. What if instead of merely existing in each other's lives, we actively curate experiences together, build new memories that meaningfully connect us? She smiled, genuine and bright. I would love that, Dad. We can explore the untold stories of our family, the versions of ourselves that we haven't shared yet. As she departed, Harold felt a resolve crystallize within him. He couldn't back away now. He had taken the first steps into a new version of his relationship with Chloe and the entire family. It was a commitment that transcended the old ways of parenthood, evolving into something richer and more profound. He couldn't shake the nagging thought of the inevitable challenges ahead. Would the family accept this version of him? Would he find the courage to face shadowy doubts that still lingered? He lowered himself into the couch, questioning how this journey would unfold, what difficulties and discoveries lay in wait, and what role he would ultimately choose to embrace. The true test was still on the horizon, a storm waiting to break. Would he weather it, or would he falter? As the weight of the uncertainty settled in, Harold understood that this wasn't just a familial evolution. It was a renaissance of his very self. And in this complexity he felt the truth. The moment had come to not only face the past but to illuminate the present. Harold sat on the couch, the contours of his mind spiraling like a storm. The warmth of Chloe's words still hung in the air, a stark contrast to the chill of his self-doubt. He felt he was on the precipice of change, but the unfamiliarity of that territory gnawed at him. Emotions that had long been guarded surged to the surface: fear, disappointment, and a flicker of excitement. He recalled the moments he had let slip by, times when he should have been more engaged, more present. Those instances replayed like a broken record, a litany of missed opportunities. This time, however, he didn't want to wallow. He needed to act. Determination sparked within him as he contemplated the new beginnings that lay ahead. The clock on the wall ticked steadily, a reminder that time was both relentless and precious. Harold reached for his phone, scrolling through his contacts until he landed on his sister's name. Vanessa had always been his confidante, the one who understood him without judgment. She had her own family now, but she would recognize his longing for deeper connections. He hit call and waited, heart racing. Hey Harold. What's up? Her voice vibrated with warmth and familiarity. Vanessa, I really need to talk. I'm trying to change the way I connect with Chloe and the kids. I want to make being present a priority, but I'm feeling a bit lost, he admitted, hesitating for strength. Hey, that's a great first step. Want to meet up this weekend? We can brainstorm some ideas, she suggested, enthusiasm lacing her words. A wave of relief washed over him. Yes, I do like that. I want your perspective on how I can be more involved, more open. As they talked, Harold's initial debate of self-doubt transformed into a foundational strategy. Ideas flowed between them, sparking inspiration that blinded him to the weight of his past inaction. He drafted a mental blueprint of activities. Game nights, cooking together, storytelling sessions, all meant to forge connections. Hours later, he hung up, feeling buoyed by hope. Yet as the night deepened, old fears crept back in, rattling his resolve. What would his children think of this newfound commitment? Would they dismiss him? The next morning, as he brewed coffee, he found himself pacing the kitchen, planning how best to approach Chloe and the kids. He needed to shed the shadows of his traditional role. Maybe he should introduce the idea of a family day out, something light and joyous, free of awkward discussions on their past estrangements. He could frame it as a chance to renew family traditions that had not been fully embraced. Harold remembered a neighborhood carnival coming the following weekend. Perhaps that was the catalyst they needed. He could suggest it lightly to Chloe, feeling out their collective willingness to step away from their routines. As he planned, a sense of purpose emerged. Could this carnival be a backdrop for creating new memories, blank slates for connection? But then another thought struck: what if Chloe was not ready for these initiatives? Her previous request for emotional presence gnawed at him. He couldn't force her to engage deeply right away. Could he manage the duality of wanting connection while respecting their pace? That day turned into a whirlwind of activity. He approached Chloe amidst the ordinary chaos of home life. "I was thinking, how about we take the kids to the carnival this weekend? It could be fun, just a time for us to enjoy each other's company." He watched her face. Would she open to the idea or retreat into her comfort zone? Tension flickered across her features. He couldn't decipher whether it was intrigue or apprehension. Minutes passed as she paused, deliberating. "I like that idea. It sounds refreshing," she finally replied. Her smile uncertain yet hopeful as joy mingled with trepidation. Harold sensed the promise of a new chapter. One that would embrace uncertainty, but also thrive on the excitement of possibility. But amidst the budding optimism, Harold couldn't shake the nagging feeling that not everything would flow so easily. He was stepping into uncharted waters, and like any navigator, he had yet to chart his course beyond the carnival. What deeper struggles awaited him in this journey of connection? With his heart racing, he could only ponder one question. Would the commitment he sought etch a new legacy for his family, or would old habits claw back to the surface, threatening to undo his progress? The morning of the carnival dawned with a crispness that stirred anticipation in Harold's chest. He had spent the past week psyching himself up for this day, layering his resolve with enthusiasm. Yet as the hour approached, he felt the familiar swell of nerves twist in his stomach. He moved through the house, inspecting every detail with a critical eye. The kids were animated, buzzing with the energy of the day. Chloe was in the kitchen preparing snacks. Most people would call it a day of fun, but for Harold it felt like a high-stakes event. This wasn't a mere outing. It was a test of his commitment to change and his ability to foster connection. "Are we ready?" Harold called out, attempting to sound confident, but the tremor in his voice betrayed his anxiety. The truth echoed louder than the festive chatter around him. Failure could lead him right back to the solitude he was trying to escape. Chloe turned, her expression a mixture of amusement and empathy. "We're just waiting on you, Dad." With that, the family piled into the car, and Harold allowed himself a moment to marvel at the closeness, the kids bickering playfully in the back seat, Chloe casting him warm glances. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. The carnival was a kaleidoscope of colors and sounds, sensory overload that made his heart race. While Chloe herded the children toward the cotton candy stand, Harold stood back for a moment, scanning the vibrant scene. He recognized this moment as pivotal. It was a visual manifestation of the joy he sought to cultivate within his family. Yet it felt as if he were walking a tightrope, caught between desire and anxiety. "Dad, come on," his daughter called, pulling him into the whirlpool of activities. Clutching his hand, she tugged him toward a face-painting booth. He followed, compelled by her excitement yet haunted by the question of how to navigate this environment without slipping back into his old ways. As they waited in line, Harold began to regain some composure, marveling at the joy on his children's faces. Despite the thrill of the day, an unsettling thought lingered in the corners of his mind. What if the moment of disconnect returned? Old habits could creep in when he least expected it. "Can I get a dragon?" his son piped up, eyes bright with eagerness. Harold's heart swelled. The enthusiasm was infectious. "Absolutely," he replied. Then the uncertainty washed over him again. Would this enthusiasm hold if he struggled to keep the pace? If something went awry, if he faltered in the midst of their laughter? The face painter, a jovial woman with paint-splattered hands, engaged the kids effortlessly. Harold watching how easily Chloe bantered with her. She was here present, and for the first time in a long while so was he. Their shimmering moment was shattered when a nearby child began to cry, overwhelmed by the chaos. Harold's instinct was to retreat, to protect himself from the possibility of being overwhelmed. But deep within, a voice urged him to stay present. "Hey, buddy, do you want to see something cool?" He heard himself say to the boy, kneeling to his level. The child glanced up through tear-streaked cheeks, caught off guard. You'll be okay, Harold continued, feeling the warmth of confidence budding within him. Let us go check out the rides after this. I bet you'll love the roller coaster. With a slight nod, the boy's face transformed, and soon the little one was laughing at a silly face Harold had made. This small act set a ripple through him, igniting the flame of connection he had craved. But then doubt crept back. What if this was just a facade? Could he hold on to this authenticity, or would it slip away as soon as the day ended? As laughter echoed around him, his heart lurched with unresolved questions. Could a single day transform embedded patterns, or was he merely delaying the inevitable? He took a deep breath, smothering the rising apprehension. The stakes were high. Relationships were fragile things, but he was willing to confront his fears. He had taken the first step, yet the road ahead was uncertain. With determination ignited, Harold locked eyes with Chloe across the crowded fairgrounds and caught a glimpse of hope. Would he muster the strength to remain steadfast in his commitment, or would he falter as old habits beckoned him back? The day was only beginning, but he could already feel the weight of unseen challenges growing larger. The vibrant atmosphere enveloped Harold as they navigated through the throngs of families, laughter rising and falling like the carnival's mini rides. Each face, every shout echoing around him, seemed to amplify the weight of his commitment. With each step, he could feel the pulsating rhythm of uncertainty coursing through him. He stretched his fingers, the warmth of his children clutching onto him. That singular moment with the little boy was unexpected yet invigorating, but just as quickly as it sparked confidence, the shadows returned. They loomed, whispering reminders of his easier, retreating tendencies. The taste of vulnerability was bitter, but it felt more like freedom than prison. Let us find those rides. Chloe's voice broke through his reverie, infusing him with renewed purpose. She motioned for the kids and they surged forward, a tide of youthful exuberance. Harold lingered for a moment, watching the joy unfold before him, the noise transforming into a symphony of shared laughter. Entering the ride area, he felt a descent into his most instinctive fears. Heights had never been easy for him, but he realized he had not just fears about rides, he feared the high stakes of emotional connection. What if he failed to keep up? He wasn't just riding the coaster. He was riding the roller coaster of complicated relationships, full of unexpected twists and drops. Dad, come on. His son's urgent call shattered his thoughts. He willed himself to move, breaking free from the grip of introspection. Standing in line for the Ferris wheel, he gripped the metal railing tightly, heart racing. The children buzzed with excitement, but a small voice inside questioned whether he belonged here, in this joyous hub. What if laughter was a mask, and he was missing the truth? But as he glanced sideways, he caught Chloe's eyes once more, glowing with warmth. Each moment repeated became a steady push against his instinct to retreat. He stepped closer to the children, playfully ruffling their hair. Who's willing to brave the heights with me? He challenged, searching their faces, craving their enthusiastic responses. I am, shouted his daughter. An unexpected shiver of pride rippled through him, and he couldn't help but chuckle as they boarded the ride together. As the Ferris wheel began to ascend, he felt the exhilarating rush of height, even as unease twisted around his stomach. He had chosen to be present, to embrace each moment, but the real test awaited him at the top. Reaching the apex, the world spread out below, a dazzling tapestry of colors. And for a brief instant, he felt a clarity wash over him. This high point wasn't just about the ride. It was a construct of his life, a viewpoint from where he could see not only his fears but his triumphs as well. Look, Dad. You can see everything. His son's exclamation cut through the swirling anxieties, and at that moment Harold understood. Acceptance couldn't be just a passive state. It demanded active participation. As they rounded the peak again, he took a deep breath, inhaling the mixture of fear and joy. Yes, moments were fragile, but they were also filled with potential. After disembarking, laughter bubbled up between the family. Yet beneath the surface, the deeper realization lingered. Each moment of connection amplified his need to prove himself not just to his family, but to himself. He hadn't just conquered physical heights, he was navigating emotional peaks. And this carnival was merely the beginning. But then, as they made their way towards the next ride, his gaze fell upon a small booth tucked away, selling caricatures. A flicker of self-doubt ignited within him. Perhaps a reflection of him depicted would prove too harsh a reality to face. This was more than a simple drawing. It was the heart of self-perception. Could he warrant enduring that scrutiny? Or would he recoil back into the familiar shadows, stunted in his progress once again? The answer was blurred, but as they approached the booth, another part of him stirred an undeniable urge to learn more about himself at any cost. Harold stood before the caricature booth, the bright colors and bold lines beckoning him closer. It felt like a reflective pool, and he was hesitant about what image would surface. He wanted to turn away, to escape the potential ridicule that awaited him, yet a new kind of determination stirred within him. This was no longer just about the caricature. It was about confronting who he was and confronting the narrative he had created about himself. "Can we get one, Dad? Please." Chloe pulled at his sleeve, her enthusiasm infectious. Somehow, her request forced him into contemplation, gripping him with an urgency that felt almost palpable. He wasn't merely deciding on a drawing. He was standing at a crossroads between the fear of exposure and the desire for visibility. "Okay," he finally relented, though his voice lacked conviction. The artist, a middle-aged man with a keen eye and an honest smile, motioned for him to sit. As Harold settled into the chair, the world around him faded. The sounds of laughter and carnival music dimmed, and he found himself in a small bubble of reflection, facing his own choices. He forced himself to breathe steadily, questioning the fleeting shadows of self-doubt that encroached upon him. What was it about this moment that unnerved him? The caricature would be a distorted view, exaggerated in ways he might not appreciate. But what if it was also a pathway to understanding himself? "Just relax, sir. The more relaxed you are, the better it will turn out," the artist advised, pencil poised above paper. Harold's heart raced. Was relaxation even possible when the stakes felt particularly high? He thought back to the Ferris wheel, that moment of clarity at the apex. He had been high both physically and emotionally, yet the thrill had underscored a deeper truth. Understanding was born from genuinely confronting oneself. The artist continued to sketch, and as the pencil danced across the page, Harold's mind wandered to his family. Could he be the supportive father they needed? How did he want them to see him? He yearned for clarity, as he had experienced just moments before, yet here he was questioning his reflection. "Your family is lucky to have you," the artist remarked, breaking through Harold's turbulent thoughts. It was an offhand comment, yet it resonated deeply within him. There it was again, that push against the retreating tendency he had nurtured for so long. Perhaps self-doubt could be confronted through the eyes of others, especially those he cared for. "Lucky?" Harold echoed, his voice barely above a whisper. "What I mean is, I can see that they find joy in you," the artist replied, catching his gaze in the mirror reflection. Harold felt as though he were being disarmed, the truth stripped free of the burden of denial. As the caricature took shape, he recognized it portrayed more than mere likeness. It held the potential to reveal undiscovered parts of himself, the complexities of a man caught in self-doubt, yet yearning to emerge. "Almost done," the artist said, finishing with a flourish. Harold braced himself, expecting something exaggerated and unflattering. But as he leaned closer, the image struck him in unexpected ways. The caricature reflected vulnerability, while showcasing a strength he had long overlooked. Could it be that embracing this distortion was part of a more significant transformation? He sought his children's expressions. Would they see him in this rendition as more than just their father? With eagerness twisting in his gut, he realized the critical choice ahead of him: to share this image, to invite their reactions, real or imagined, and open the door to a conversation he had been avoiding. As the laughter of his children tugged him back to the present moment, he pondered deeply, could he be brave enough to open himself to their insights, regardless of whether they matched his fears or if they offered solace? The caricature lay bare, a draft of revelation that demanded action. Would this decision propel him forward, or would he find himself retreating once more into the familiarity of self-doubt? But as he gazed once more at the image filled with potential, painted with shades of truth, he felt an electrifying pulse of courage rise within him. The moment of truth approached. What certainty could arise from sharing not just the caricature, but the essence behind it? For the first time, the path ahead felt both daunting and transformative, and he took a breath, ready to meet the challenge head-on. Would they embrace him? Or would the reflection echo back a fear too profound to confront? Harold held the caricature, its colors vibrant and its lines sharp. In that moment, a surge of emotions wrestled within him, a battle between anticipation and apprehension. He could feel his heart thrum in his chest, each beat a reminder of the shift happening inside him. The mirror image, wildly exaggerated yet surprisingly honest, displayed not just a caricature of his features, but the essence of the man he hoped to evolve into. As he turned to face his children, their eager faces illuminated by joy, he questioned whether he could present this new image. "Chloe, Jasper, come look at this," he called out, hoping his voice was steadier than he felt. Chloe bounced on her toes, her eyes bright with curiosity, while Jasper, his older brother, ambled over, his gaze focused and serious. "Wow, Dad!" Chloe exclaimed, bursting with excitement. "You look silly but in a good way." Jasper leaned closer, studying the little details. "It's not how I would have drawn you, but I like it," he declared, his tone thoughtful rather than critical. Harold's shoulders relaxed as the approval washed over him. This was not just about the caricature. It was a catalyst for conversation, an opening for vulnerability. "Do you think it looks like me?" Harold asked, pushing past his own insecurities. "Of course. It's really funny. But it shows that you can be serious too," Chloe remarked, her innocent wisdom piercing through Harold's inner chaos, illuminating the path he could take. Her words ignited something deep within him, a realization that perhaps he had been too serious for too long. The laughter, the light-hearted moments he often brushed aside, could hold the key to knowing his family better and simultaneously, knowing himself. Funny in a good way. "Like a strong man who's not afraid to be silly," Jasper added, missing nothing. "It means you're okay being vulnerable." Vulnerability. The word lingered in the air, heavy yet comforting. Had he begun to embrace this vulnerability in front of them? The image before him became a symbol of that acceptance, a bridge to deeper connection. "You're right," Harold said slowly. "It does show a side of me that I've kept hidden." The conversations flowed as he stood there with his children, their joy mingling with his apprehension, creating a tapestry of openness that challenged his old habits of retreat. "What if we made this our family tradition?" Harold suggested, bewildering even himself. "We could get caricatures every year and see how we change." Chloe squealed in delight, while Jasper nodded vigorously. "Yes, and you can see how we grow up too," he added, contemplating the idea. What was it about that suggestion that felt like stepping into a new skin? Harold realized that he didn't just want to be their father. He wanted to be more an active participant in their lives, their laughter, their shared moments of silliness. As the evening wore on, laughter carved through the remnants of tension. The caricature had shattered a facade he clung to, illuminating a new pathway filled with discovery. Every giggle from his children felt like a step forward, a movement away from the self-doubt that longer had any hold. Yet, amidst this soulful exhilaration, an undercurrent of fear remained. What if he couldn't sustain this new openness? What if, when faced with true challenges, he reverted to the safety of silence? His thoughts turned resolute, and as he watched Chloe and Jasper, he gathered the determination to maintain this new commitment. The action he needed to take was clear. Conversations about feelings his own and theirs needed to flourish. If he wanted to be the father they deserved, he had to nurture this openness. But as he tucked his children into bed later that night, the question hung heavily over him. How would he navigate the inevitable struggles of being vulnerable in a world that rewarded facades? The moment of truth was still awaiting him. Tomorrow would bring new situations, more chances for connection, and challenges that would test this evolving self. Would he unravel, or would he emerge anew, stronger for having faced the doubts once more? And as he turned off the light, the shadows of fear danced uneasily on the walls. The journey was only beginning. Days turned into weeks, and Harold found himself navigating uncharted waters of connection with renewed vigor. Each morning, he wrote affirmations in his journal, powerful declarations about the kind of father and man he aspired to be. With every stroke of the pen, he reinforced the belief that vulnerability was indeed strength. It was the anchor amidst chaos, not a sign of failure. He had internalized this truth so profoundly that it began to manifest in his interactions with Chloe and the kids. Family dinners transformed into engaging discussions, laughter erupted more spontaneously, and the emotional transparency he craved found its way to the table. His children, in particular, displayed surprising eagerness to share their thoughts, their feelings a direct reflection of the openness Harold spearheaded. Conversations flowed with ease, addressing anxieties, ambitions, and even the mundane trials of family life. One evening, while flipping through family photos, Harold discovered a snapshot of Chloe as a girl, grinning widely next to a Christmas tree. Instinctively, a warmth engulfed him, reminding him that this family dynamic was not solely built on shared blood, but also shared experiences. In that moment, he decided to relive those experiences with intent. Huddled together with his children, he suggested creating a family scrapbook, a compilation of their adventures, emotions, and even the challenges they faced along the way. It would be more than just a collection of photos. It would be a chronicle of their shared growth. "Dad, that sounds awesome." Chloe beamed, clearly excited with the idea. Both children rallied with enthusiasm, and the energy in the room felt electric, the kind that promised new beginnings. In the weeks that followed, they embarked on weekend outings, exploring everything from local parks to museums. Each of these excursions fostered connection and provided opportunities to demonstrate emotional analysis as they deconstructed their memories, their joys, and their fears. They documented everything, not just in photographs but in written reflections honoring the essence of their experiences. One particularly memorable weekend, they visited an art fair. While browsing various stalls, they stumbled upon a booth featuring interactive installations. Among them was a piece encouraging participants to express their inner feelings through art. It seemed to resonate with Harold. The act of creating, just like the metaphorical construction of a stronger family bond, required vulnerability. Together they grabbed brushes and palettes. Harold felt a wave of resistance surge. They were about to make art, something he had little experience with, but he squared his shoulders, embracing the discomfort as he always tried to. Each stroke of color made him reflect on emotions he had long suppressed. The fears and insecurities melted into vibrant hues across the canvas. When Chloe and Jasper caught him off guard, expressing admiration for his willingness to experiment, Harold felt validation that ignited a deeper sense of belonging. As the afternoon drew to a close, his heart brimmed with pride. They had created something beautiful both on the canvas and in the space between them. This was not merely a day. It constituted a transformative moment of recognition for Harold. No longer was he just a participant in a family filled with laughter and love. He was now a pillar, reinforcing those very values through action and participation. Recognized among his children as a nurturing presence, he finally proved to himself that he belonged in his family's evolving story. What had once felt unattainable now transformed into something tangible. He was becoming the father who listened, embraced, and engaged, present in every emotion. One evening, as the kids nestled into their beds, their laughter echoing in the hall, a familiar sense of fulfillment washed over him. Standing at the doorway, he felt waves of gratitude and determination converging. He knew challenges lurked ahead, ready to test this newfound steadiness. But in those quiet moments of reflection, Harold recognized that he had forged an identity bound by love, connection, and purpose, an identity born anew. And as he turned off the lights, he resolved, as he had for weeks, to continue stepping forward, to lean into vulnerability, to embrace and nurture it as a part of his family legacy. With this overwhelming awareness, he no longer feared the impending uncertainty, but welcomed the opportunity for growth it offered. Harold had indeed transformed, not merely for himself, but to ensure that his family, too, thrived amid the ebbs and flows of life. You need to subscribe now to witness every compelling moment of transformation that unfolds in our next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to celebrate Harold's journey, and feed the algorithm that makes these inspiring narratives possible. Comment below with your thoughts on this incredible journey of growth, and what it means to you. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Let them know they too can find their way through life's struggles.